gentlemen,
Kris
Cruz. I set the microphone on fire.
Cause I got it going on.
And it goes a little something like this.
The star of our show.
Kris Cruz.
Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new week, new interviews. Thank you so much for listening. Season 2 is becoming this fascinating podcast of information, great interviews, and great advice. And let's go back to college, guys. I'm in college. You guys know this. And you guys know that I do a lot of college projects and I get myself involved in college because I think that is the place where you can start molding a person's mind and create them to start doing some creative thinking. Then I came online and looked at a headline, actually a sub-headline that says, "The attitude we choose towards hard work and self-determination should decide our success or failure in life, not the mistakes people have made in the past." This is really interesting because it came from an article titled "Georgetown's Reparations Policy Helps Promote Inequality and Discrimination." And this is why I'm bringing in senior contributor at the Refine Right and president of the College Republicans at UC Irvine, California, Ariana. So here we go. What is going on? And it's really interesting because I do a lot of my research via Twitter. And I don't go to your typical library because why? So what is going on, Ariana?
I think people have been sort of gotten used to being given things and not working hard for success, and especially in today's society where everybody, is sort of coddled as children, overprotected parents. You have your cell phone with you at all times. It's sort of like a little freedom in your pocket. You have access to all this sort of information. You can do research, like you said. You just saw it on Twitter instead of going to a library like you used to. People are sort of used to being entitled to things, and when they actually have to work hard for something, they sort of cry unfairness. Specifically with Georgetown University, their policy is pretty much what they're going to start enacting is they're going to give preferential treatment for admission statuses for the descendants of slaves. So pretty much lowering the bar for admissions for slave descendants. Georgetown is a great university. You have to have really good grades to get in there, and to do that, I mean, you have to work really hard to get those A pluses, to get those great SAT scores and get in that university. And it sort of creates a sort of it makes our school system unprofitable to accept people who don't meet the qualifications and have them either drop out or not function to the best of their ability, not take the full use of that school and come out and be, successful and productive, because they weren't good enough to get there in the first place. And the only reason they got there is because of something that they can't control, like who they were descended from.
It's really interesting because I'm trying to figure out how they're going to know that I am a slave descendant. So are they going to go to ancestry.com and find that out? But here's where I want to take this interview, because you wrote an interesting thing inside your article, and it says a child born into a wealthy family has the privilege to squander his opportunity. A child born poor has the privilege to be the first in his family to go to college through a hard work and self-determination. Equal opportunity does not mean equal outcome, and people forget that. Can you elaborate a little bit more?
I think they do, especially in America, where everybody knows or has an idea of what the American dream is, and a lot of people achieve that, and it's on full display. You go and you see a successful person, and you say, wow. I don't think anyone says I don't want to be successful. People look at successful people and say, I want that too. And in America, America's an exceptional land for many reasons, but one of them is because everybody has an equal opportunity to achieve that success as long as they work hard for it and make the right choices. So a lot of people, when things don't go their way, when they're not making as much money as they had hoped, or they're not, driving around in a Porsche or Lamborghini. They sort of blame the system for their own failures. Oh, well, the system must be racist. The system must be sexist. I should be earning more money for what I'm doing. But there's many reasons for why that's not true, but it doesn't matter, because they're just looking for a reason to justify their failure. Anything else to justify their failure that doesn't put any blame on them. And people have to take responsibility for their choices, for their life decisions. And people aren't really doing that nowadays, because they can cry racism, cry sexism, cry something phobia. And that's something that's wrong with our society, I think, and it's prevalent in a lot of different ways, not just the school system.
No, I totally agree with you. It's something that, ever since I was a little kid, my mom always told me, Chris, you're a privileged person. And I understood that, she would say, think about it, you were born in the United States. Well, I was born in Puerto Rico, but still I was born in the United States. I have the freedom to do anything that I want. And I joined the military. And then, most of my supervisors, they say, Chris, think about it, you're so privileged. And it's really interesting, because it's like Georgetown is saying, we don't care about your hard work. We just want to make something that happened a long time ago. Kind of like, we're sorry. Yes, we are sorry about what happened with slavery. That's one of the darkest times in America. But at the same time, it should not be something where just because you were a descendant of slavery, you could get into a university. Am I right?
And is that not? Yeah, I agree. And is that not racist in itself to say that descendants of slaves are not as capable as people who weren't descendants of slaves?
Exactly.
Because I think that everybody is capable of doing the exact same thing. It just depends on how hard you work. Specific choices that you make in your life, and it doesn't have anything to do with whether you're a descendant of slave or not. And I think that honestly, I think that to implement this sort of policy is a little racist in itself, to say, well, you were descendants of slaves, so you can't do the same thing as everybody else. You don't have to meet the same standard, because it's just too hard for you. I think that's patronizing and a form of discrimination.
Oh, I totally agree, Ariana. Tell me a little bit about this thing so-called culture of victimhood.
Well, especially in college campuses today, and within the millennial generation, if you're a white person, you because of your privilege or because of something else, because of the success of people who've come from those areas where white people have, like Britain or America or the United States, Spain, France, all those areas, who've historically have had success as a nation. You're seen as inherently racist, inherently privileged, and there's sort of a need for you to make up for the fact that your ancestors were more successful than the ancestors of somebody else, usually a brown or a black person. So there's this sort of culture of victimhood that says, well, I'm a so-and-so, I'm impressed, I'm a woman, I'm a Mexican, I'm a Puerto Rican, I'm an African, I'm oppressed, and so because I'm oppressed, I want you to give me things, essentially. It's a take society, and there's no real input into it, and that obviously, if you keep taking and you don't give anything back, that doesn't really make for a profitable, productive society.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
There's going to be I predict that there will be a few issues with the way that the United States will be run within the next 20 or so years, when we become, the millennial generation becomes the full-fledged workforce of the day. But for right now, we're still the older generation. We're barely getting started. We're in college. But I do predict some serious problems where people aren't going to be working so hard, and they're going to be wondering, well, gee, you know what? I wonder why my paycheck is so low. Well, maybe you shouldn't have majored in feminist dance theory.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I've been working since I was 14 years old. I'm 26 now. My resume is as big as, like an encyclopedia. I've done everything from cleaning up a barbershop to, being a K-9 officer in the military. So I understand that whole hard work. But let's go back and drive this back to Georgetown, because you said the Georgetown decision to change admission is a behavior of an example of victim mentality. So we'll close with that. So why do you think that Georgetown is saying, you know what, let's lower the bar? Because that's what basically they're doing. Let's lower the bar and kind of cater to these people, but at the same time, the standard for everybody else is still the same. So what do you think is going to happen in Georgetown?
Well, I think that it's a slippery slope. It first starts with, the victimhood cry of, oh, well, I was descendant of slaves, so my ancestors, hundreds of years ago were disadvantaged, so somehow that must have an effect on me. That sort of stuff. The slippery slope starts with the descendants of slaves, then it's, free college for all the descendants of slaves, and it's, it starts with all black people, all brown people, all women. Where does it end? Do we want to do the same for Irish people who back in the 1860s or 1880s, I think it was, they said no Irish need apply, and nobody was hiring any Irish people. Should we give them all Should we give them all jobs now? Should we give them all, six-figure salaries? Mm-hmm. It's that sort of mentality. Where does the reparations end? Where is the line? And the answer is there shouldn't be any reparation. It's just your own hard work, your own merit that determines where you end up in life.
No, and I totally agree. What are we going to do? What about the Japanese? We did something to the Japanese. Do people forget that?
We did horrible things to the Japanese.
Do people forget?
We were recently as well.
Exactly. This is not something that happened, in the 1700s or back when America was. We did something during what we call modern times to the Japanese. So what about them? If I was a Japanese, I'd be like, wait a minute, ours happened, a couple hundred years ago. So what about ours? Yeah.
And there's nobody alive who's directly affected by slavery, but there are people alive today who are directly affected by our decision, or not our decision, but FDR's decision to put Japanese in camps.
Hey guys, and we're going to close with this because Ariana put it in her article, and she puts, America was established with the self-evident truth that all men are created equal and endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights. It's fascinating, guys. Please go visit these guys at refineright.com. That is refineright.com. And what else can they find at this website, Ariana?
There's going to be a slew of new fantastic articles out there, including an activism piece, an activism guide for college students around the country. I looked over it. I had my partner at UC Irvine would write it. From the College Republicans, we've had some huge success there with activism. So anybody who wants to start doing some activism on college campuses, definitely check out that piece.
Yeah, go for it, guys. And Ariana, how can people get in contact with you on Twitter?
On Twitter, my handle is at @IamQueenAri, and you can follow me on Facebook at Ariana Rowlands.
And like I said, guys, that is all for today. Thank you so much for joining me today. And please visit my website, brand new website, KrisCruzBlog.com. That is KrisCruz blog.com for more interviews. And if you have any comments about this or any other interviews, please come and tell me via Twitter at RC_KRIS. Guys, thank you so much for listening. And before we end, I want a big shout out for Rick for creating my new intro and outro. I love them. They are amazing. Guys, and until next time, this is Kris Cruz.
You are listening to the Kris Cruz podcast.
Come like a guillotine.